Greetings, maniacs, New Englanders, and everyone else. I hope you all are doing well today. It's getting close to November 7th, election date, which is what prompted me to record these videos. And quite honestly, what encouraged me to fulfill something I felt called to already, which was report on what's going on in our nation, specifically what's going on in our state. Maine is such an incredible state, and so much happens here. And the saying is, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. And it is so true. And I think people that know that are infiltrating us and trying to persuade us into a certain kind of belief. This is something I've been putting off. I have recorded all of the other questions before this one. If you're watching these in order, this is going to be the third. For me, it's the last. I did not want to... I had so many mixed feelings, emotions, thoughts, consequences, all of it running through my head. This video is not to persuade you to vote in any particular direction. Regardless of what my opinion is, I am not telling you to vote any which way. When you vote, that is entirely up to you, and I hope you do vote. Voting is part of our democracy. It's part of our democratic right. There are countries across the globe that do not have a right like this. So in order for us to continue having this right, we need to utilize it, show that we care about it. It's like a muscle in our body. If you stop using your legs or you stop using your arms, whether you're paralyzed or you just choose not to, they're gonna atrophy. And eventually, it's gonna be so much harder to get the muscles back than if you had just continued them. So what I'm getting at here is voting is so critical. It is so important. And we need to continue to vote. Because if we don't, it will atrophy and die off, and we will have a hell of a time getting it back. So, that being said, I also think it's important that we be very clear on what we're voting for, have a good understanding. This year is an in-between year. We're not voting for president, we're not voting for senator, House of Representatives, anything like that, governor. We are voting for how we see the future of our state in general. And I think it gets sidelined. I think politicians hope for this. I think that politicians plan for this. And we as Maine Americans, just so consumed by everyday minutia. Bills, chores, picking the kids up, getting the dog to the vet, doing all these things, just trying to maintain any kind of personal or social life on top of working overtime because you can't afford fucking anything. It's such a difficult and rough time. And then it feels very sly and maniacal that they're trying to slip in such important questions while most of us are so distracted. So, I don't want to mislead anyone in these videos. And honestly, I have a hard time figuring out where I stand on one side or the other. Personally, after all my research, I have come to stand on a side. I don't want to share that right now, but I do want it to be known that it was complicated, it was complex, and it felt intentional. There is a lot of confusion. and I don't appreciate it. Me filming these videos, I'm trying to clear up some of the political fog because there is so much of it. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to film this video because there's so much here and so much has been presented basically from the same angles that I wanted to try and come at it from a new angle. However, even the news seems to present it in such a way that it's hard to find another angle. Unless I were to go and question these people individually, personally, which I am more than willing to do. However, the time constraint is an issue. As of this recording, it is October 24th, and November 7th is right around the corner. I'm going to continue to do as much as I can and record as many videos with as much research as I can up until that time. But I'm still a new YouTube channel and I don't have the kind of reach that I would hope for. So I don't know who and how I'm going to impact people, but I truly hope I do, because there's some important decisions that we need to make as Mainers. And I think this is foreshadowing what's coming up in the elections in 2024. We have a lot to decide upon, and we have billions of dollars streaming out of our fingers every time we turn around, whether we have say in it or not. So on that note, I will say the potential to save billions, even the potential to save billions, is very attractive to me at this point. Because the alternative is what we've been doing, and what we have been doing is an open sieve. Throw in some sugar and cinnamon while you're at it and just shake us all up because it's streaming on out. I don't want to make this lighthearted. I don't want to make too many jokes because this is not a joking matter. This is serious, and this has profound impacts. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was saying how most Mainers don't know how to vote because we haven't been told shit. And that's so true. So here I am trying to spew some shit because the tea is, it's fucking nasty out there. They want us distracted, they want us overwhelmed, and they want us looking the other direction. But don't. We can't control the world. I don't want to get into world politics, definitely not in this video, but in many of my videos I try to avoid world politics. Because you and I, as common, everyday, average Mainers, can't do shit about that. What we can do is clean up our yard, make our bed, help our neighbors stack their wood, mow their lawn, get ready for fall. If your neighbors are all fit and willing, go reach out to an old lady that you know is in the neighborhood. Chances are she's doing it herself and she's not going to ask for help. So you fucking strut over there, you just casually begin doing whatever she's doing, and then she's going to sit back and relax and start telling you all kinds of profitable and valuable stories for you to continue life with. And long after she's gone, you will remember her. That is not something specific for my life, although I have learned so much from elderly people. My grandfather was 80 when I was born. I moved in with him when I was 10, and he was 90 years old. A 1909 motherfucker raised me. I was born in 1990. You think I have the same understanding as other privileged kids that grew up in the 90s? I don't. I grew up with an independent, very Great Depression era, World War II mindset. And I'm thankful because my grandfather got me ready for the bullshit that we find ourselves in now. There is so much money that's been spent by CMP. CMP, their parent organization, Avangrid, however you want to pronounce it. I'm going to say Avangrid because that's what I said in the last video, and that's what I'm going to continue to say. And then Avangrid's parent company, Iberdrola. I was saying that one, Iberdrola, which was incorrect, and I don't know where I came up with that, but it's Iberdrola. It's Spanish, so I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Again, I don't care, because they're not from Maine. They're not profiting Maine people. They're not helping everyday Maine constituents. Instead, from Spain, the money is going out to Qatar and Norway. And then you have Versant's parent group, NMAX, that is 100% owned by Calgary, the city of Calgary, Canada. When I imagine where my money, where my taxes are going, it is not to other governments, let alone other countries. No. And those companies, CMP and their parent groups, want us to believe that Pine Tree Council is going to be a government-owned, it's going to be government, it's going to be political. Is there room for politics? Yes, absolutely. But we get to elect them. Us, Mainers. I believe it's 7. We get to elect a board of 7, and then they get to get a board of 6 professionals. They don't have to elect them, they get to choose them. But we get to elect 7 people from across the state. Is there room for politics? Hell yes. I'm not ignorant to see otherwise. However, do I see that as more control than shareholders in Qatar and Norway, Calgary and Spain? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then we can hold those elected officials to account because they've got to be from Maine. If they're elected here in Maine, they are Maine residents. Maybe they're Maine residents pretending while they live in DC or while they live in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, just pretending to be Maine citizens. But you and I, Mainers, we ain't ignorant. We're not stupid. We may choose our hills to die on, but we ain't dumb, and we're not falling for this. So having an elected board of officials is way more control and freedom on our part as citizens than having shareholders in foreign government countries. I haven't read any of the articles yet, and I do plan on getting to it. But to be honest, we've all heard the articles at this point. We've all heard the arguments, and we are left with more questions than are answered. That's if we bother to listen, because there's so much noise out there, it's drowning out our own thoughts. And that's intentional, because if Mainers were given full faculties, full amount of time to consider everything, they would not vote in favor that the elites are trying to lead us to. And the elites are shareholders from other countries that are spending $35 million in campaign revenue, persuading us to vote in a particular direction, while the opposition is raising 1 million or maybe 11 million if they're lucky. There is something wrong here. Ultimately, I really am trying to present this in as unbiased a presentation as I can. However, I also committed this channel to thinking like an average Mainer and reacting like an average Mainer. So this isn't necessarily personalized reactions or internalized perceptions, preconceived notions that I have. I'm thinking as a state. I'm thinking of all of us. Old, established Mainers that have been here for 3, 4, or 5, maybe more generations, and the ones that just immigrated to the state, whether from overseas or another state. As I've said in other videos, I think that there is a magnetism to the state of Maine. I think it's powerful, and it presents itself in the forefront of individuals who are meant to live here. That being said, if you're called to live here, you've been called to work your ass off. So prepare for that. Because if you think that Mainers and pre-Mainers have done anything other than that, you are very mistaken. The winters are cold and long. So when spring rolls around, you are already thinking of next winter. If that's your mindset, if that's your work ethic, you will be welcomed with open arms. And our state's big. We can handle a lot. But we need to be of one sound mind while we do it, because a split mind is schizophrenic and is unhealthy. So let's unify our thoughts. Whether we're the same skin color or not, it does not matter. Work ethic, your personality, and your commitment to get down dirty and work hard is what matters. I'm saying that as a gay Mainer, because there are places here in Maine that would look down on me because I am a homosexual. But I don't let that get to me. And I also don't present myself in situations where I think that that might get me into harm. However, I've never been afraid to go anywhere here in the state. And I'm thankful for that. And I have been around many individuals that are people of minorities, people of color, and to me, I do not see any of the racism, any of the judgment that is so proliferated online. Most people do not want war. Most people are not racist, and do not hate. There are certain groups that have animosities towards others, but that's neighbors towards neighbors, and it doesn't matter about nationalities or color groups. Everyone's competing with the Joneses, aren't they? That's the saying. Who cares what the color of the Joneses are? They just have everything. So I'm digressing a little bit, but I am trying to iterate that us Mainers, new and old, I do believe that we have a common thread, a common core that draws us here, as all magnets are drawn. And so I think that's special. I've been a lot of places. I've been to every state except for Hawaii and Alaska, and I've been to 10 other countries. And there is something special about Maine. I will say that. I love it here. It is incredible, and we need to protect it. So on that note, I'm finally going to get into question 3. I digressed a bit because that was some opinion mixed with some fact without references. But at this point, we've all heard some propaganda and some hullabaloo about question 3. So on that note, I'm going to first pull up Ballotpedia. Main question 3. Okay, before I start, I want to read what question 3 is. Question 3 on the Maine ballot on November 7th. Do you want to create a new power company governed by an elected board to acquire and operate existing for-profit electricity transmission and distribution facilities in Maine. That's one of the more straightforward questions and easier read and less breathtaking. And yet it is the most complicated question on the ballot. So back to Ballotpedia. Maine, question 3. The Pine Tree Power Company Initiatives is on the ballot in Maine as an indirect initiated state statute on November 7th, 2023. A yes vote supports creating the Pine Tree Power Company, an electric transmission and distribution utility governed by an elected board, and would allow the company to purchase and acquire all investor-owned transmission and distribution utilities in Maine. A no vote opposes creating Pine Tree Power Company. Overview. What would this ballot initiative change about electric utilities in Maine? The ballot initiative would create a quasi-municipal electric utility called the Pine Tree Power Company. Currently, 80% of Maine residents are serviced by Central Maine Power, while 16.4% of Maine residents are serviced by Versant, two investor-owned utilities. Investor-owned. They want money back. This initiative would also allow for the Pine Tree Power Company to purchase and acquire all investor-owned electric utilities in Maine, which includes CMP and Versant. The Pine Tree Power Company would have all the powers and duties of an electric utility company and would be expected to deliver electricity to the company's customer owners. The measure would also establish the Pine Tree Power Board, which would consist of 13 members. 7 of the members would be elected to represent the state Senate districts. Each would represent 5 of the state's 35 state Senate districts, and 6 members would be designated expert members. So I was correct on those numbers. What is the history behind the initiative? The first proposal to create the Pine Tree Power Company was introduced to the Maine House of Representatives by State Representative Seth Berry, a Democrat in the 55th District, in 2021. The House approved the legislation on June 17, 2021, but the Maine State Senate rejected it on June 18th. The House then passed an amended version of the legislation on June 30th, and the Senate approved the amended version on the same day. Lo and behold, Governor Janet Mills, a Democrat, vetoed the hastily amended several times, vetoed the legislation on July 13th, 2021. She said LD 1708 was hastily drafted and hastily amended several times. As if we haven't been living through that for the last 3 years distinctly. In recent weeks, without robust public participation, seems to be a patchwork of political promises rather than a methodical reformation of Maine's complicated electricity transmission and distribution systems. She's using us against ourselves. She's saying, well, you really weren't robust enough. So, no for you. I have words, but I won't share them right now. On October 22nd, 2021, a citizen initiative that would create the Pine Tree Power Company was approved for signature gathering. The initiative was allowed to circulate until April 22nd, 2023. on October 31st, Halloween, 2022, the Our Power campaign, the committee registered to support the measure. Excuse me because I'm burping. Submitted more than 80,000 signatures to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State confirmed that the Our Power campaign submitted 69,735 valid signatures on November 30th and certified the measure to the state legislature. The legislature referred the measure to voters on May 5th, 2023. Prior to the proposal to create the Pine Tree Power Company in 2018, various Massachusetts utility companies signed an agreement with CMP to build a 145-mile high-voltage transmission line known as New England Clean Energy Connect, NECEC, that would bring hydroelectric power from Quebec in Canada to Massachusetts. However, in 2021, Maine residents voted 59.2% to 40.8% to approve Question 1, an initiative state statute which prohibited the construction of the NECEC. Question 1 was the most expensive ballot measure in Maine's history, with $27.9 million raised in support of the initiative and $71.9 million raised in opposition to the initiative. No wonder they're coming so heavy for us. Ballotpedia still continues, and I want to read it, but that year, which, hell yeah, Maine voters, we did the right thing. The New England Clean Energy Connect, bad news all around, does not profit us in jobs or long-term passive income, does not profit us. So I am so glad that we voted against it. Silent majority. For those of us on YouTube that are watching YouTube trying to find inspiration of others that are like you, just realize there are others like you. You are not alone. Do not vote according to what you think others will vote, because you will not vote the way the silent majority will vote, which is in opposition of large governments with too much control. Mainers, dirigo, Latin phrase for I lead. Vacation land, where people go to relax and get away. Maine, the way life should be. It is our motto and our lifestyle and our worldview. The way life should be. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have to fight, that we're not going to have to be scrappy, that we're not going to have to defend our innocence that people take as weakness. No, we are meek because we're minding our own business and we're doing our own thing. You mind you, we mind us. You come for us, you find out we're not so weak after all. Meekness does not equal weakness. So the fact that there were so much money raised, and then, so question 1, the proponents of question 1 raised $27.9 million in support. That year, the opposition raised $71.9 million, and it still didn't help. So now it seems like they're starting off strong, where the opposition to question 3 is saying, all right, like they spent $27.9 million right away. We're going to spend $35 million right away. And we're going to just overwhelm people. We're just going to get it to the point that no one can see otherwise. Because Qatar, Norway, Calgary, Canada, they have a lot to lose. So they're going to work it out in their parent groups, that their parent groups then support and trickle down money until it gets to where they think it needs to get to support and do what they want it to do. And us Mainers are just competing to survive. Because electricity is just one of 3 top priorities in our lives right now. We have gas, which is skyrocketing, and you never know where it's going to be. Sometimes it's low, which currently it seems to be. Tomorrow it'll be fucking high, and you'll regret not having done something today. Food just keeps going up. Every time you go to the store, you're like, should I buy ham and burger meat and just freeze it? But I don't have freezer space anymore because I'm freezing stuff already. I'm not going to buy a freezer. Oh, and even if I try to buy a freezer, they're stocked out. I'm not going to get it until May. So, and then you have electricity. Electricity shouldn't even be in our mindset. Electricity is a foregone conclusion of a civilized country. You don't think about electricity. You don't think about how much money you're spending in electricity because the grid is working for you. And if it's not, you make the grid work for you. Oh, but you're pushing the fact that you want to have more electric vehicles and more reduction in carbon fossils emissions? But our grid's not set up for it? You can't have it both ways. So this ballot, it's trying to get us to have it both ways. It's leading us to believe that we can have it both ways, and it is so wrong. So going back to Ballotpedia, after question 1 passed in 2021, NECEC Transmission LLC and Avangrid filed a lawsuit to overturn it. On April 20th, 2023, a jury decided in a 9-4 unanimous verdict that the construction of the NECEC can resume. We said no! That is so rape-y. Who supports and opposes the initiative? The Our Power Committee is the PAC registered in support of the initiative. As the largest campaign finance reports covering until September 30th, 2023, the campaign reported $1.7 million in cash and in-kind contributions, and $1.1 million in expenditures. Top donors included 128 collective, Susan Brotovic's Preston Warner Initiatives, the Green Advocacy Program Project, Gary Friedman, and Helen Norton. Former State Representative John Brottigam, who serves as the Our Power Board president, said, Mainers are tired of seeing their rates go just up to fatten the wallets of stockholders who couldn't find Maine on a map. After a year of connecting with Maine people and collecting signatures from almost every town in the state, we are proud to offer a brighter future for our state's electric grid and cheaper power for Maine ratepayers. The Maine Affordable Energy Committee and the Maine Energy Progress are the PACs registered in opposition to the initiative. As of the latest campaign finance reports covering until September 30th, 2023, the committees collectively reported $35.3 million in cash and in-kind contributions and $29.3 million in expenditures. Top donors included Avangrid Management Company, NMAX, Clean Energy Matters, Versant Power, and Central Maine Power Company. Those are all of their homies. That is all of their benefactors. That's no one outside of the benefactors. And they raise so much money. That's like a bully going home and working out, being like, I'm gonna beat this fucking little scrawny kid. oh, he's gonna get it. No, a bully is only gonna pick on a kid smaller than them if they know, without working out, that they can beat the shit out of that kid. If that kid turns around and starts gaining weight and starts beefing up, yeah, the bully's gonna start fucking pulling weight. These companies are pulling weight against $1.7 million. They're pulling in $35.3 million. Excuse me? Excuse me. Does this not seem like it is not quite fair? Obviously, at this point, it's not illegal for you to raise as much money as you want. But as much money as you raise, you are pumping it into our brains by every single sense. Sight, sound, touch. I wouldn't even be surprised if you fucking scented those things just to get it into our brain a little bit more. I'm getting worked up. I'm getting worked up. But this is important. And we're being misled by all of the media. By all of the media. No one is digging into this as deeply as they should. I'm going to finish reading what Ballotpedia has to say, and then I'm going to go into I'm going to brief over the articles. You can read them yourself. I've read most of them, if not all of them, and I've listened to the YouTube debates and the Maine public discussions. I've spent hours researching this. I'm trying to bring information to you, and I'm going to do it in links below. That's going to inform you where I got a lot of my beliefs from and why I'm so worked up, because I truly believe that the Maine people are being deceived by most of our elected or otherwise believed to be honest figureheads. And I just want to bring that to mind. So back to Ballotpedia to finish up. The Maine Affordable Energy Coalition said that the creation of the utility that would replace investor-owned utilities would be costly. As costly as we're already spending and never seeing in repairs or maintenance or an upgraded grid? Is it more than that? The committee said a scheme to seize Maine's electric grid by eminent domain would create a government-controlled utility, and we would all be on the hook for the cost. We're already on the hook for whatever cost it is. At least here we have an elected board that we can have some say in how it's governed. That's democracy. I mean, in an essence, they're trying to say that democracy is bad. No, democracy is great. You want to be able to vote for who's in control. Otherwise, you're bought out. The narrative and the wording, it's so persuasive and so toxic. We're already on the hook for the cost. The debt that comes with taking over the utilities, an estimated $13.5 billion, which is probably exaggerated. And even if it's not, we can do it. Because in the long run, we will make it cheaper for our children and our grandchildren. And isn't that what it's all about, thinking about tomorrow? Because climate, all the things that we do now are making it harder and more expensive for us to live in the hopes for our children to be able to. Let's remove control from other countries, bring it back to the state of Maine and say, yes, we want it all controlled in the state of Maine. If we have debt, we will pay it. And then the following year, we will find out a way to not be in debt. Because we ain't stupid, are we? The debt that comes with taking over the utilities, an estimated $13.5 billion, is 3 times the entire state budget. And that's a debt it would take decades to pay off through our electric bills. on the opposition, it will take us a century or more to get control from Qatar, from Norway, from Calgary, Canada, if we allow this to continue. Everything that's said, you have to consider there's an inverse to being what's said. If you are pro one thing, there is an opposition in the other. That is just a generic form. But if the opposition, they're not going to say, we oppose pro X, Y, and Z. They're going to pose it in positive language. So they're going to say, we are pro doing the opposite. We're pro, everyone's pro, everyone's positive. No one's negative, unless it's about the opposition. And us Mainers, we already do it. We've just been so stimulated by everything that it's hard sometimes to focus on minute-to-minute details. But as soon as we do, and I implore you, you are a strong Mainer. You will stop and think. Even if it's just while you're taking a shit, set your phone aside and just think. Because that's what life is about. Technology and every second having a concern is what they want. And if that's what they want, that's exactly what we don't give them. So do the opposite. And I'm hoping that the camera cut me off. Well, okay, not the camera, but storage. I guess I've been ranting too hard for too long, and the gigabytes in my computer couldn't handle it. Well, that being said, and there's probably a lot of bull that I need to clean off this old laptop of mine. I am not technologically inclined, so there's probably a lot that could be done that I should have been doing and I'm not. So I guess that's a good come down moment for the moment, because we're dealing with a lot. There's just a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of one side saying one thing about the other, and it doesn't feel very true to me in a lot of regards. I need to move my phone. So I'm just going to include articles that I found. I'm not going to read these all because it would take me 3 hours to record this video. This is from the Maine Monitor. What to know about Maine's electrical utilities ahead of vote on ballot initiative. Getting power to your home involves a complex series of systems, state and federal regulators, and lots of poles and wires. Welcome to the Grid, by Katie Koff. There's also a nice image that's included with the electrical grid and how it runs through New England. This is from the Maine Morning Star. As election nears, question 3 proponents explain how a consumer-owned utility might work. Opponents of the utility buyout argue such a transition is risky, based on fantastical assumptions. That's by Evan Popp. I'm also going to include the review, assessment, and restatement of the financial model used by London Economics International LLC in its report to the Maine legislature on the creation of a consumer-owned public utility, by Dr. Richard Silkman, May 15th, 2020. Actually, since no one talks about this, I am going to read about the abstract really quickly. I need to stop saying. So London Economics International has seriously misstated the financial consequences to Maine's ratepayers that would result from a municipalization of Maine's two investor-owned utilities, CMP and Emera Maine. I guess that means Versant. Through the creation of Maine Power Delivery Authority. In its reference case, LEI calculates those financial benefits to have a net present value of $232 million over 30 years. When this estimate is corrected to include balance sheet assets held by the MPDA in 2053, additional revenues to the MPDA in a form of interest earned on cash balances and a higher weighted what is happening? I don't know. Hold on. Can I just undo what I just did? I was reading it and then all of a sudden it just like zoomed in and zoomed in. Okay, so I will include that link down below. And I will also include CMP gets $30 million federal grant to improve Maine's electric grid. This is by Maine Public, more specifically Murray Carpenter. So they're getting our taxpayer money and grant money to improve our systems that look exactly like they did in 1990. If we're really improving, we're getting better. I know, since I was born in 1990, I have only increasingly been getting smarter, faster, more developed since then. And okay, maybe 18-year-old me could have outrun 33-year-old me, but as soon as that 18-year-old me crossed the line, I would have fucking punched him in the jaw and I would have outrun him, so I still would have won. WGME 13 report. Executives for Spanish company with ties to CMP accused of manipulating electricity prices. I don't think they were just accused. I think they actually had to pay fines. Don't quote me on that. The Spanish company with ties to CMP, it's CMP, Avangrid, or Avangrid, and Iberdrola, Spain. From Spain, it goes to Qatar and Norway. So these aren't just accusations, they literally were doing these things. I will include all these articles below. So, Avangrid subsidiary CMP wins $30 million federal smart grid technology grant. That's from Bloomberg. I think I'm gonna actually respond to this in another video, but I want you to have all of the information available at once. So this is on YouTube. It's by CBS 13 News. Maine's power struggle. CBS 13 BDN hosts question 3 debate. So CBS 13 Bangor Daily News hosts question 3 debate. And it's like 30, it's not even 30 minutes long. They're trying to fit it into commercial breaks. I don't respect that kind of shit. That's why I don't have a cap on my videos. My videos go for like 12 minutes to 54 minutes currently. Although this video I think is going to outrank any of the other videos. So they're trying to fit it into profitability margins. And most of us Mainers, we don't care. We have questions. We want answers. We don't care about time limits. So this is a Newsbreak. Newsbreak is the app that I use, so it's technically from Bangor Daily News. Letter, public power report worked for us in Nebraska. By an opinion contributor. So in this article, he just goes on to say that it worked beneficially for them. And Nebraska is one of the other states, one of the only other states that has anything like what Maine is trying to do. And Nebraska is urging us on. So Bangor Daily News, I have 2 articles that I was going to share from them, and I thought that I had access because I subscribed to them recently. I just went back and looked at the subscription. I subscribed for print and e-print only. That means they print stuff in the newspaper, and I can see that. And then they print stuff in online, and I'm not able to see that. I have to buy like double subscription in order to read the articles here. So Bangor Daily News is getting a big thumbs down from me. Like, you have got to earn your subscription model. You have got to earn profits somewhere else. By having the Maine average citizen paywalled out. And then you have to buy, I guess you could buy one or the other, but the digital subscription is so much more than the print subscription. Bangor Daily News, big thumbs down. Big thumbs down. I will include the articles only because they're here. I don't think many people are going to click on and read them. That's your fault. So this is from Spectrum News. Mills opposes CMP and Versant takeover, warning that it would leave the state's utilities in a dangerous state of limbo. I will read this because, well, this is our governor currently. Governor Janet Mills is urging Mainers to vote against Question 3 on the November ballot, saying a takeover of the state's 2 public electric companies would leave our utilities in a dangerous state of limbo. Mills on Wednesday raised 3 major objections: the cost, the governing board, and the potential for a protracted legal fight. Because Question 3 is a hostile takeover of our utilities with eminent domain, we are guaranteed to go to court and to be tied up in a litigation for years, if not decades, she said in a radio address. That leaves our utilities in a dangerous state of limbo when we can least afford it. Question 3 on November 7 ballot is a citizen initiative put forward following Mills' rejection of a similar bill in the legislature in 2021. Last year, a group called Our Power gathered enough signatures to call for a public vote to create Pine Tree Power, a new entity that would replace Central Maine Power and Versant with a non-profit. Pine Tree Power would be controlled by a 13-member board, 7 of whom would be elected, and 6 of whom would be designated as experts. The company would be financed by issuing debt against future revenues and would not be permitted to use state tax money or state bonds. The cost of acquiring CMP and Versant would be negotiated or determined by a third party, such as a judge. Supporters of the effort say the takeover will save electric consumers money over 30 years. They also promised to reduce outages and bring back local control from the foreign corporations and governments that have bought out CMP and Versant, according to their website. In a statement, Pine Tree Power campaign manager Al Cleveland says, Mainers know CMP and Versant have the worst customer service and the most frequent outages in the country. Which we do, and we can tell. We aren't looking to talk to politicians like Governor Mills to tell us how to vote this fall. Mainers are looking at our electric bills, neighbors, and the existing consumer owner utilities across the state that save people money. A yes vote on question 3 is our path towards voting out CMP and Versant. Multinational corporations controlled by foreign governments. Pine Tree Power will save Mainers money, reduce outages, and bring back local control of our grid. In her recent statement, the governor said the cost, estimated at $13.5 billion, is more than her 2-year state budget. The cost alone leaves me very concerned that we are proposing to mortgage the future of our children who are going to have to foot this bill years down the road, Mills said. When it comes to the governing board, Mills said it would introduce politics into the state's electric utilities. Question 3 is one of the 8 ballot measures that will be decided in November. Mills said she's not taking public positions on all of them, but that she feels concerned enough about question 3 to speak out publicly. She said she's already signed legislation into law to hold the utilities to account for minimum standards of service. That's what we should be doing, holding them accountable and improving their services, not launching a hostile takeover that will cost billions of dollars to Mainers, ratepayers, and inject partisanship into the delivery of our power and delay the progress we've been making, Janet Mills said. Governor Janet Mills, stop talking. Every time you talk, every time you open your mouth, you say something that the Maine people disagree with. I can understand where you're coming from. But the unknowns in the situation are you and yours, who we've been voting into positions of power currently. When it comes to Governor Janet Mills, I will do the opposite. Because what she stands for, what she loves, where she votes is power, money, fame. It is not family, commitment, and community. I'll include all of these down below. There's a 4-minute speech from Governor Janet Mills about question 3. She also explains her opposition to consumer-owned utility for Maine in WABI 5. Bangor Daily News, we're back to here, and both of the articles, I think I was going to include 4. I'm not going to include them because I thought that I got into what I needed to do to read the articles, and there's more money that I have to spend. So I won't be doing it, and Bangor Daily News, you should be ashamed of yourselves. I will include WMTW 8, ABC, Maine Electric Guide, What to Know Before Heading to the Polls. And then, oh, actually, no, I already talked about that. So I listened to the entire segment, which was 50 minutes, of ballot questions 3 and 1 by Jennifer Brooks, Jonathan P. Smith, and the panelists were Al, hold on, because that actually doesn't tell me. Well, this is, okay. I can't remember the article that I was reading that actually told me. I'm not editing this out, so I listened to 50 minutes of Maine Public, and it was questions 3 and 1. Oh, here it is. It's Al Cleveland, Willie Rich, Steve Missler, and Kevin Miller. Al Cleveland and Willie Rich, they speak with Jennifer Rook, and then Jennifer Rook speaks with Steve Missler and Kevin Miller. And it's a 50-minute segment. People are calling in. They have legitimate questions, and Jennifer is cutting them off. Like, we don't have time. What do you mean we don't have time? Who's we? Because we, the people, have only time because we want to know what we're voting in. And then you're cutting us off. You're pulling it down. You're saying, oh, I assume this is what you're saying. Don't assume. Listen. Respect what we're saying. Hear it in entirety. And then respond. And if it takes more than 50 minutes, if it takes more than 2 hours, who are you to judge that that's okay? Or that's not okay? I guess you only have prophets for so long, but most people that I know, and most of those questions were so legitimate and deserved a deeper dive, and you didn't. So Maine Public, I feel disenfranchised from all the news, to be honest, because none of the news is getting to what we the people care about. So that is where I hope here on YouTube I can make a difference, because I do care. I deeply care. And I really want to get to the bottom of this. And at the end of the day, when we the voters vote, if it goes in a way that I personally don't care for, if every educated Mainer made that decision, that is democracy. There is nothing I can say. But if there is deception, if there is propaganda being pushed and trying to be brainwashed in it, I have a very big problem. So this was one of the issues that I had with recording question 3, which again, question 3 says, do you want to create a power company governed by an elected board to acquire and operate existing for-profit electricity transmission and distribution facilities in Maine? I clearly got very worked up in this, but also most Mainers will, when they are genuinely presented what is at stake and the future that they may have to face. This is how we're going to react. And so I want more Mainers to just be on board and to understand what's at stake and to be informed. Vote conscientiously. Vote how you personally feel needs to be enacted. Do that at a deep level, and I will never argue with you. Well, I can't say I won't argue. We'll come to heads, but if it's what you truly believe and you truly live out and you truly vote, that is freedom. So please express freedom in November 7th and vote yes on Pine Tree Power, because Pine Tree Power is where things are going to improve in our future here as Mainers. If we do not do that, then we're allowing foreign corporations, foreign governments to rip apart the seed of what Maine stands for, the way life should be, now and for always. Until next time.